Hello, Matt Wilson here for my weekend show. Hopefully shows. I'll do another one either today or tomorrow. This is going to be on the Talking Heads. Talking Heads, that famed New York City band, emerged in the late 70s, all part of the CBGB scene, all those post-punk bands, and some of them were actually punk bands. Great group all the way through the 80s. And I'm going to be using the old white cube box of all our albums in surround. And then a couple of live albums too. So the Heads were very consistent. They were one of my favorite groups in the 80s. And hard to say when they peaked. I'm going to say their output from the first album on through at least 85, Little Creatures, was outstanding. The last two albums, though good, I don't quite put in the same category as the previous ones, but they're still good records. Let's just dive right in here. This is Talking Heads 77. They just recently had a big box set for this album, which I did not buy because I already have the album in surround. These are great little. This set here of these surround sound mixes came out, I don't know, in the early 21st century. And I bought it at the time just because all the albums, they're CD hybrids. They were remastered. It was the only way you could get their albums remastered on CD. I didn't even have a surround sound rig at that time. So I wasn't able to play it until like within the last, 6, 7, 8 years, since I've had a 5.1 system. These are the songs. You have to open up the booklet to look at them in the end. There are, there's the 11 songs on the album, and then there's a whole bunch of bonus tracks. Some of them are on the CD side. Some of them you have to flip it over, and when you play the DVD and hear the album in surround, there's also bonus tracks. It's such a great way to have the album, indeed all of these albums, that I don't feel the need to buy, further box sets for these records. So let's go over this record. Uh-Oh, Love Comes to Town, New Feeling, Tentative Decisions, Happy Day, Who Is It, No Compassion. The book I read, I like that one a lot. Don't Worry About the Government, First Week, Last Week, Carefree, Psycho Killer, and Pulled Up. Psycho Killer, of course, is the classic. You hear that all the time. Pulled Up's a great song. Then you also get Love Building on Fire, I Wish You Wouldn't Say That, an acoustic version of Psycho Killer, I Feel It in My Heart, Sugar in My Tongue, and then other stuff on the DVD. It's one of the great records of, here's a little sticker that came with the box. It's one of the great albums that came out in 77, which was a year full of, new albums by new bands, the Clash and the Pistols. My Pistols video is coming up, hopefully before the end of March. Television. I mean, there was so many, Elvis Costello. There were so many bands at that point putting out really great Wire, The Damned, debut albums that year. So Talking Heads 77 is just one of them. Ramones put out 2 albums in 77, but they weren't the debuts, right? The debut came out in 76. Okay. More songs about building and food. See, the back of the discs just have the white. You have to open them up to see the songs. There we go. All right. So, all right. Another equally good album. Thank You for Sending Me an Angel, With Our Love, The Good Thing, Warning Sign, The Girls Want to Be with the Girls. Used to hear that one on the radio. Found a Job, Artists Only, I'm Not in Love, Stay Hungry, Take Me to the River, the Al Green tune, which was their next big hit after Psycho Killer. The Big Country. All right. Then you get bonus tracks on the CD side only, and you get a couple videos, live videos after the 5.1 DVD side. So If Talking Heads 77 is virtually a 5-star album, so is More Songs About Building and Food. Don't really have a clear idea about which one I like better. Both of them are outstanding. You can begin to hear, I think, the beginnings of their world music influence on this album, but it really comes to fruition on what I consider to be their first classic, their first total 5-star album, Fear of Music. This is one of the great, top 5 albums of 79. But folks, I can make a strong case for the 2 previous albums being among the top 5 albums released during 77 and 78. So the Talking Heads were, they were totally groundbreaking at the time. It was intellectual music you could dance to. That was virtually unheard of. There's the songs. All right. So Izimbra is where you really get those, African polyrhythmic percussion instruments going full flow. Mind, Paper, Cities, probably their 3rd big hit. They had one great radio hit per album at this point. Then they began to have multiple hits. Actually, this is the first album that they began to have multiple hits. Life During Wartime is, of course, an even bigger hit. Memories Can't Wait, Air, I love Air, and Heaven. Animals, Electric Guitar, and Drugs. 1, 2, 3, 4 more bonus cuts, and then, again, 2 live cuts on the DVD side. Fear of Music. When King Crimson came back in 81, with the Discipline album, they virtually fashioned their new music on Talking Heads circa 79 and 80. Even Adrian Belew, who was playing guitar with the Heads at that time, went on to be the singer for King Crimson and sounded very, very similar to David Byrne, right? Okay, so that's 79. When I was a Talking Heads fanatic, 40 years ago? God, wasn't that long? How long were the 80s? Yeah. This was my favorite one. Remain in Music. Everything I said about, Remain in Light. Everything I said about Fear of Music, it can be said about Remain in Light. That's the album. Again, it's another total, hybridization of post-punk new wave. New wave is what we called it at the time, with African rhythms and all danceable. Then they even have some avant-garde stuff on side 2. Born Under Punches, The Heat Goes On, one of my favorite. Totally just slams you with that rhythm. Cross-Eyed and Painless, same thing. The Great Curve, Once in a Lifetime is, again, that's their big number for this album. Houses in Motion, Seen and Not Seen, Listening Wind, and The Overload. The songs on side 2 toward the end, they're not so danceable anymore. This probably, at the time I thought, was the best mixture of the dance music with the force of, say, the best rock music and that new wave thing that they've always had. All right. And these albums sound great on in surround sound too. All right. Their first live album, and many say their best, is the name of this band is Talking Heads. This is an expanded version. It is 2 discs. It's everything you want live Heads to be. It's got, here, let's look at those tracks again. I'm a fan of live albums. I always like to promote live albums, especially as so many of you and so many people that I speak to say that they don't really care for live albums. Look, I'm so old and lazy. I'd rather hear a great live album than go see a band live that I might, that I'm paying a lot of money for, which might not perform well that night. Anyways, this is, by the 80s, if the true time for live albums was the late 60s through the 70s, by the early 80s, it was starting to die out. There weren't as many truly great albums released at this time. This is 81 or 82, I don't remember. What does it say here? Oh, 82. If I said 81, That means that 81 was the first year that the Heads did not release an album. This is 82. By this point, well, we had had that great Motorhead live album in 81, but there just weren't as many fantastic live albums being released. The Stones did a live album this year, which was weak. Anyway, the first disc here is 77 to 79. The second one is 80 to 81, you know, where it's just all that polyrhythmic stuff. Yeah, I'm gonna say this is a great live album. Okay, this is not in the white cube box, by the way. All right, back to the studio albums. To my estimation, another virtual classic, Speaking in Tongues. This came out in 83, so we're well into the MTV era now. They're doing videos. You know, these songs were all over MTV. You know, they were all over the radio. I haven't looked up the RIAA stats for Talking Heads, but I'm betting you this was the first really big seller. So there's the songs. All right. Yeah, these booklets come with the lyrics. I mean, when you get this cube box, you really couldn't ask for anything more. So Burn Down the House, that was a big video on MTV. Making Flippy Floppy is one of their better live numbers. Girlfriend is Better, that was a radio hit. Slippery People that's a great one too. I Get Wild, Wild Gravity, I used to hear that on the radio. Swamp, Moon Rocks, Pull Up the Roots, and This Must Be the Place, 90 Melodies, that's one of their better pop songs. They had not released an album yet in 1983, which was not either a classic or at least a minor classic, right? So, you know, I'm almost sounding boring right now because I have nothing negative to say about these albums. I love them all. They're right up Matt's alley. All right. In 84, even though they just had a live album in 82, they gave us Stop Making Sense. Now, this is more of a, to me anyway, this is my original CD that I got back in the 80s. This is more of a movie than it is an album. I never really played this album all that much. I played the name of this band as Talking Heads way more, even though this CD didn't come out until way after this. But I looked for my Blu-ray of this or my DVD. Now I can't remember which one I have because it's such a visual thing. And you can hear it in the surround. Now, when you watch the movie, here's the songs. Sorry. You know, with Byrne and his big suit and all the other musicians they have on stage with them, which they've been doing for years by then. That wasn't something that they had just stumbled upon in 84. When you watch the movie, you think, wow, you know, how could you have that much energy for one concert? It's not one concert. That is a movie made to be, you know, that was filmed as a movie project where all those songs were done, rehearsed, recorded, filmed, you know, and then put aside, and then you go on the next song. It wasn't just one performance. So if you think, how can David Byrne be dancing around like that for the whole length of a concert? Well, he wasn't. Or if he was, it's not the performances that you see in that movie. But anyways, so it's not making sense. I don't play the album that much, but as a film, I think it's one of the great concert films of all time, not just the 80s. They were at their peak of popularity in the mid-80s, Talking Heads. You know, they were like maybe the biggest American band, when you think about it. Well, who else? I mean, the Police and U2 weren't American, although the Police had one American drummer, right? Okay, back to the box. What I think is like their last really great album is Little Creatures. There's the songs. This was a virtual retread, but not in a bad way, of, God, I'm getting this title wrong, aren't I? So one thing about these CDs is you don't see the name of the album anywhere. This is Little Creatures, right? Well, this one was Speaking in Tongues. Okay, so this one is Little Creatures. This was just more of the same. More radio songs, more MTV classics. See them there? So that's cool. And she was, you heard that on the radio all the time. Give Me Back My Name, Creatures of Love's a great song. A Lady Don't Mind, used to hear that on the radio. Perfect World, Stay Up Late, another one, radio track. Walk It Down, I've always liked Television Man, and then Road to Nowhere, it's kind of like Naive Melody, This Must Be the Place, kind of a pop song, which you heard a lot. So another classic and or minor classic, whatever you want to call it. Okay, I'm going now to 86. I'm going to show you the album, True Stories. Then I'm going to pause the video and I'm going to get the Blu-ray because I forgot to even look for it. Ooh, but I couldn't find Stop Making Sense. Well, I'll look for True Stories anyway. Okay, True Stories, they were huge at this point. In 86, the album came out. The album's pretty good. At least you get the Talking Heads versions of the songs. In the movie, these songs are sung by the actors. And then the movie came out, and it's an interesting film. The Criterion Blue that I had, Criterion is a reissue Blu-ray label, formerly DVD label, now 4K Blu-ray label, which just releases classic movies. So for them to even consider your film as one of their projects is an honor. There you go. Love for Sale, Puzzling Evidence, Hey Now, Papa Legba, Wild Wild Life was the song you heard on the radio and on MTV. Radiohead, yes, that's where the band Radiohead got their name from. Dream Operator, People Like Us, always like that one, and City of Dreams. So kind of though, like Stop Making Sense, I see this project more as a film than I do an album. But I did play the album plenty, when it came out. All right, give me a sec. I'm gonna look for the Blu-ray. Okay, got it. True Stories. All right, that is that's the Criterion Blue. Good film. Yep. 1986. Is this 4K? No, it's not. Just regular, is that the way? Yeah. Just regular Blu-ray, but a good movie. And of interest, even if you're not a Talking Heads fan, you get to see, this is totally David Byrne's project. But it's all his idea, and it's his kind of, looking into the lives of small town people and what, makes them tick and all. I recommend the film more than the album, but even the album's good. All right. Okay. And the last album that's in the Cube is Naked. This came out in 88. They did not do anything in 87. I said that Byrne had been on the cover of Time magazine in 86. I think I did. Anyway, there you go. Another good album. In fact, I probably like this one more than True Stories. Mr. Jones, first song is Blind, which is good. Mr. Jones is good. He's talking about, Dylan's Mr. Jones. The same way that Counting Crows would later do it. Totally Nude, Ruby Deer, Nothing But Flowers, The Democratic Circus, Facts of Life, Mommy, Daddy, You and I, and Big Daddy, Bill, Cool Water. What this doesn't have is a big radio hit. All right? So, whether that was telling the heads it was time to stop or not, I do not know. But that wraps it up. David Byrne. I always think of these things when the camera is on me. He did an interest. He had an interesting solo career even before the heads were over with. I should have pulled out. I'm not going to get begin and go look for it. But the album he did with Brian Eno, My Life in the Bush of Ghosts, was that what it's called? That was in 81. That was pretty good. That used to be kind of like a minor classic reputation then. Now you don't hear about it so much. But anyways, so is this my first? This is my first New York band to come out of the CBGB's or Max's Kansas City scene in the mid to late 70s. I'll do videos on all the, I mean, Ramones, Blondie. I'll do television, even though they didn't have that many albums. I could do at least the first couple of Tom Verlaine records. So yeah, I mean, New York, I've been to CBGB's. I've never seen a show there, but I've been in there. It's a little place. There's like a bar there, and the stage is, you know, it's about the size of like a movie theater is bigger than CBGB's. But a lot of great music, you know, a lot of great bands came from there. And I always, you know, growing up on the West Coast, I always kind of had that thing where I wish I could have, you know, been privy to, you know, the shows or the bands that were on the East Coast. The same way that I do, why I have this fascination with San Francisco, because I never lived there either, and I always wished I could have seen those bands. So anyways, this is Matt signing off. Another shortish video of about 21 minutes now on the Talking Heads. Hasta la vista.